Challenges we are in challenges us to our own selves. Let's hope and overcome this soon to lead a new normal life. Good morning, everyone. Prayer is the raising of one's mind and heart to God. Let us begin the program with a prayer. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraka. Guru Sachat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Thank you. The participants cannot present your video or screen here. We request the participants to give your questions only in the chat box. I now invite Dr. Shivashankari, Head in Charge, Department of English, to welcome the gathering.
On behalf of the management principal, SDNBV Vaishnav College, I deem it an honor to welcome Professor Manu Mangattu, an eminent educationist, a trustworthy teacher, a noble and humble-hearted human being who is giving so much of free coaching to NET students for English. A very warm welcome. I welcome you, sir, to this to conduct this webinar. Welcome.
Thank you.
On behalf of the Department of English, I welcome our beloved principal, Dr. Geetha ma'am, our vice principals, Dr. Beena and Dr. Sita Lakshmi, to this program. I personally welcome my wonderful team, without whose support this webinar would not have been possible, to join me here today. Finally, we all join hands to welcome our dear students, whom we are missing terribly in this time of pandemic, to join us here and give us the pleasure of being with you for a while. A hearty welcome to you girls. May I request Ms. Hema Malini to kindly introduce the guest.
Good morning. It's a great privilege to introduce and welcome the resource person for the webinar, Dr. Manu Mangattu. Dr. Manu Mangattu is a professor of English, poet and editor. He is a university rank holder and has 8 years of teaching experience at SGC, Mahatma Gandhi University, Kottayam. He has published 9 books, 72 academic research publications, 93 academic papers, apart from 14 edited volumes with ISBN. He serves as chief editor and proofreader for various international journals. Of late, he has been engaged in UGC-funded Swayam MOOC course. He delivers lectures on topics ranging from literary theory and Sanskrit poetics to critical appreciations and creativity. Besides translations into English from Chinese and Sanskrit, he writes poetry both in English and Malayalam. His active involvement in Chinese poetry translations won him the Sobriquet Comrade to Poetry China in 2016. A visiting faculty at various universities, he conducts poetry reading, workshops, and lectures. After an apprenticeship in Shakespeare under Dr. Stephen Greenblatt, he currently offers part-time guidance to 23 research scholars from India and abroad and mentors NET aspirants. On behalf of the faculty of the Department of English, I once again welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, Professor Manu, I request you to take over.
Okay, thank you. I would like to thank this wonderful college in South India, which has extended me a warm welcome to speak to your students, your scholars, your teachers on this wonderful occasion. And I'm humbled to listen to the kind words of introduction. Thank you so much. I'm just wondering which part of the introduction would make me an eligible speaker today. Whether that I have published papers, I don't think so. The topic for today's discussion is relevance of arts and humanities during the pandemic. And when somebody has to speak about something like relevance of arts, relevance of humanities during the pandemic, this during the pandemic kind of creates a lot of problems, literally and metaphorically. And a lecturer doesn't have much to say about the pandemic. A scholar doesn't have much to say about the pandemic. A humanities scholar definitely has nothing to say about the pandemic, except maybe he can speak something about pandemic literature, how various authors have looked at pandemic situations. That's it. Nothing more to say. The most eloquent speaker in the world would find it tough to speak on a topic of this magnitude. Yeah, I understand that this looks a very easy topic, but this is a very tough topic to speak on because of the toughness of the situation, of course, but because there is this question: where is the relevance of arts and humanities during a pandemic? Are you kidding? Does the arts and humanities have anything to do during a pandemic? It doesn't make much sense. So maybe one part of the introduction where you said I'm a poet, a part-time poet, maybe that is where I will have something very little to say about the relevance of arts and humanities, and maybe as a human being, as a participant in this long tragedy that we are undergoing. These two are the only roles which fit me to this occasion to
Excuse me,
speak about the relevance of
sir.
arts and yes.
Sir, this is Divya Saraswathy. Excuse me, sir. We would like our esteemed principal ma'am to share a few words and then start the session. Sir.
Okay, sure. Thank
Please
you.
explain.
No. See, good morning, sir. Dr. Manu, please continue. I'll just have my remarks at the end after hearing your lecture. I don't want to interpret now.
Okay.
Let's
then.
go
Sure,
ahead.
sure.
Go ahead,
Thank
ma'am.
you. Thank you.
I'm
thank you.
listening to you.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So, the relevance of arts and humanities during the pandemic. The question is not whether arts and humanities is or are relevant in a situation like this. We are facing tougher questions. We are facing questions about survival and depression and denial. We are facing questions about life and death. And where does this question of whether arts and humanities is relevant take a place? It is really difficult to be positive about the role of arts and humanities. This is not the time to celebrate arts and humanities because obviously people are struggling. The whole world is struggling physically, mentally, financially. Some people have lost their jobs. Some people have lost their health. Many people have lost their dear and loved ones to the virus. So evidently this is not a time for us to celebrate anything or be positive about the arts and humanities. And I realize fully well that I am nobody to speak about this because I can't change this situation. This lecture, whatever I say or do during this 1 hour, is not going to change this situation at all. Honestly, I understand that arts and humanities cannot cure the corona infection or treat a patient. It cannot. But let us take a look at what arts and humanities signify. What is arts and humanities? Well, a layman's understanding, a common man's, an aam aadmi's understanding of arts and humanities would mean academic disciplines, subjects that are taught in colleges and universities that study the various aspects of human culture and human society. And maybe it would be more profitable to understand arts and humanities by explaining what it is not. There was a time, during the Renaissance, Shakespeare's time, when the term was contrasted with divinity. Anything that is not concerned with the divine is the arts and humanities during the was the arts and humanities during the Renaissance. Today, especially in an academic setting, arts and humanities is contrasted with the sciences and social sciences. So anything which is not the sciences and social sciences is the arts and the humanities. But that is a very narrow way of looking at arts and humanities. An academic, I guess that certain audios are not mute. Madam, could you please mute the audios? Mute
Sure.
the,
Sujatha?
yeah, please mute the other audios. There is a lot of interference.
Yeah, we do it, sir.
Okay. I can hear somebody talking. Somebody talking on the system.
Yes, sir. Sure. We'll mute, sir.
Okay. An academic, I would say, would define arts and humanities as an education befitting. No. See, there is a lot of interference.
Sujatha, please mute the audios, ma'am.
Everybody who is participating, could you please mute your audios? Okay, I think it is fine. So, an academic definition of arts and humanities would mean an education that is befitting a cultivated man. Education that is suitable for a cultivated man. Or we don't even have to go that narrow even. I don't want to narrow this subject, arts and humanities, to any of the disciplines. Arts and humanities, at least in this lecture, would refer to the common property of mankind, something that is common to all humanity. The scientist and the artist possess that sensibility. You don't always have to be a poet or a literature student or a humanities student to be talking about arts and humanities, because it is the common property of all humanities, all humanity, the whole human species. Look at Albert Einstein, the supreme scientist of our age. Albert Einstein, if you remember, he was a supremely creative individual as well. A supremely creative, a supremely artistic person, an artistic genius. There is no question here of science being separate from the arts. Or look at Stephen Hawking, the great physicist who talked about the brief history of time. You are very familiar with him. Physicist Stephen Hawking. He was a great artist. He was a great creator, creative artist. So there is no question here of the arts and humanities being divorced or separated from the sciences or the social sciences. Let us say the poet and the philosopher, the art and the artist and the scientist, all are united in the arts and humanities. Right from Plato and Aristotle, the philosophers who have thought and spoken, they were all creative, they were all artistic. So let us have a comprehensive view of arts and humanities. And during these days when we are faced with tough questions, it is imperative that we forget all narrow boundaries and we enter a sphere where everything is common to everyone. We cannot have divisive principles. We cannot have this separation of ideas, categorizations, because this is the time for us to stick together, to be together. Though we are isolated, though we are asked to maintain social distance, at heart at least, through art at least, we have to stay united. Now, the common perception about would be that it is the sciences that have a lot to do now, inventing medicines, discussing symptoms, treating patients, and solving the riddle that has paralyzed humanity today. However, when we look at the history of arts and humanities, we see that arts and humanities have a tendency to stand up and be counted in situations of great international crisis like the one we are encountering right now. This is what history tells us. Look at the world wars, look at the French Revolution, look at the great events that have happened in the history, in the timeline of human evolution. In all these events of crisis, in all these momentous events, the arts and humanities have stood up. Yes, we are here. The pen proved mightier than the sword many a time. And the ideas, think about the French Revolution. The French Revolution, with its ideas of liberty, equality, and fraternity. The French Revolution may have failed, but the ideas that it propounded never failed. So, arts and humanities has this habit of standing up when there is a situation that demands attention. And one more thing, any problem that troubles mankind must have an arts and humanities dimension to it, because man is by nature artistic and creative. No man can choose to be non-creative or non-artistic, because that is the nature of all language. Any human being in this world can create a sentence that hasn't been produced ever before. That is the nature of language. That is the possibility of language. And so definitely, again the audio is on.
Okay, 1 second.
So what I am saying is, man is by nature artistic and creative, and the problems that concern man as a being is always an arts and humanities problem, because man is a human being, and arts and humanities have to come into the picture when the human being is involved. Now, having kind of contextualized the situation, see, think about what we have been doing the past few months. These few months have been a time for us to get exposure to get engaged in an enormously rich array of ideas and experiments, artistic experiences, artistic endeavors, and whatnot. See, the social isolation, the idea that we cannot meet socially, has meant that we have to meet some other way to quench our thirst to meet and be together. So because we could not be together socially, we gathered around movies, films. We gathered around movies and music for a collective experience, for an experience of being together. For what? To fight, to ward off isolation, to fight anxiety, to fight depression. We turn to art. We are turning to art. We are looking at films. We are looking at music. We are looking at different ways of artistic and creative expression, not only as an escape, but also not only as a diversion from the difficulties that we are facing, but also as a means to channelize our energies. In a theoretical term, we can say arts and humanities offer us an opportunity to sublimate our energies in a creative way, in an artistic way. And my dear friends, my dear colleagues, I am sure you will agree with me that these days, these tough days, these dark days, we are able to appreciate music and understand a film, appreciate a film much more intensely, far better than we would have otherwise done. Why? Because of the restriction, because of the restrictive and delimiting constraints under which we are living and working today. We are able to experience things far more intensely. And this is one way in which, even without our own conscious knowledge or effort, we demonstrate our resilience, the resilience that is within us to fight to not to yield, as Tennyson says at the end of his poem Ulysses, to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. We are not ready to yield. We are fighting. Our minds are fighting, and that is why we are trying to make sense of whatever we have. Yeah, we don't have so many things, we don't have a lot of freedom, but we are trying to make sense of what we have. And of course, there are so many people who are trying untiringly all the time to make these days enlightening and fruitful and delightful for all of us amid this encircling gloom. Who are those people? Yes, we know people who are distributing food, the doctors and the medical staff who are working day in and day out to help the patients, to help the people get out of this trouble, the scientists who are spending a lot of midnight oil to discover some solution to this problem. They all are doing their bit. Of course, we respect them, and we look up to them for inspiration and guidance and assistance. But we also see other ways in which people are trying to help each other. We have seen the BBC, we have seen the Shakespeare Theatre Company, the publishers of famous books, the cartoon series, the journals, the databases, all opening up their archives and books and documentaries and theatre productions to be freely accessed by the public for the consumption and enjoyment of the public. So what has happened? A lot of books, a lot of documentaries, a lot of films, a lot of theatrical productions which were not otherwise accessible to us. We had to pay for that earlier. But these people, these companies, they have provided these things free of cost for us to enjoy these rich reservoirs of artistic delight and wisdom. And companies are excavating, digging deeper and deeper into their archives to see what else they have got to whet, to quench the thirst of this reading public. The thirst of this public who has lot of time, who has an appetite to learn and read and understand more. So everybody is trying to make our lives less stressful and easy. Still, yeah, I am telling you a lot of things. Still, I think that something is missing somewhere. I feel that we are not getting to the heart of the topic, the relevance of arts and humanities during the pandemic. Well, I would say, see, when we look at Lord Krishna in the holy Geetha, the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna, he gives a beautiful piece of advice to Arjuna. He says, I am translating, I am the splendor of all splendid things. I am the splendor of all splendid things, and whatsoever is beautiful issues forth from a fragment of my splendor. What is he saying? I am the splendor of all splendid things. Lord Krishna says he is the beauty of all beautiful things. And whatsoever is beautiful in this world comes from a fragment, a tiny fragment of God's splendor, God's beauty. So if we find anything beautiful around us, it is because of the beauty that is emanating from God. That is the idea that Lord Krishna conveyed to Arjuna. So the creative urge, see, we all are having this vocation, having this calling to fill the empty spaces. There are ugly spaces around us, there are empty spaces around us, and our role, our duty is to fill those empty spaces with tiny, cute little knots of beauty. Fragments of God's beauty we we derive it from, if you believe in God, from God or from nature or from within, from yourself, you get that and you share it with your fellow beings. And that is where we see the importance of arts and humanities, to make things a little bit more beautiful, more enjoyable. See, there are two ways of looking at the whole situation. Think about it. It's Corona, COVID-19. They call it the novel Corona, novel COVID-19. They used to call it novel. Well, no, novel is an artistic form, but still, novel has another meaning as well. Leave it. Think about it. There are two ways to look at this sad situation. We can look at it from a comic angle, and we can look at it from a tragic angle. We can look at it from a light-hearted, pleasant way, and in a serious, tragic way. I will explain. Arts and humanities teaches us how to make both the tragic view and the comic view meaningful and useful to us. What am I saying? What is the comic side of a tragedy like this? Yeah, we call this a tragedy, a human tragedy. And what is the comic side of this? You know, Sigmund Freud, the famous psychoanalyst, he spoke about the pleasure-pain principle. In simple terms, the pleasure-pain principle simply means that we as human beings, we love to be happy and we hate to be sad. Or in other words, we love to be in joyous situations and we hate to be in pain. We don't know why. Sometimes we also wonder why. When you have a small pain on your finger, or when your eye aches, or when your head aches, why do we dislike that pain? It is another experience, right? So why should we dislike a pain? But that is the pleasure pain principle. That is the way we are constituted. We are created in such a way that we love, we enjoy whatsoever is delightful and happy, and we hate whatsoever is painful. The simple way of understanding the pleasure pain principle. So the comic way to approach this situation would be to think about this corona situation as a time when we would have to entertain people and look at arts as an escape from the sorrows enveloping the whole humanity, to focus on things which are more joyful and pleasing and enchanting. In other words, the comic way of or the light-hearted way of looking at this situation would be, yes, an escape. We are escaping, eluding the situation, because we don't want to look there, we are looking there. Yeah, one sort of escape. But we can look at it creatively as well. Think of arts as opening the doors of imagination and creativity, the world, to a world of possibilities. My dear friends, you know what? When this lockdown was declared on 24th of March, I was away. I was in an alien country, in an alien state, and I was in complete lockdown with no human interaction to a lot of extent, for about 80 days in complete lockdown and caught down and trapped down and bogged down. And then when the lockdown stopped, I continued to be in some lock. I spent some 20 days in strict quarantine. Of course, it was tragic. It was definitely tragic, but in some sense, even then I was thinking, in some sense, it was very comic too. Obviously, I didn't have to cope with the illness. I didn't have to cope with death. I didn't have to cope with some of the troubles that people really encountered. So maybe I could afford to look at the comic way of looking at things. Let me explain. Think of a man locked in a tiny room. Think of a man locked in a tiny room And think of another person who is outside the room. Who is happy? The man who is locked inside the room has nothing. All dryness, darkness, nobody to speak to, no human contact, nothing. He is locked inside a tiny room. There is a small window to his house, very small window to his tiny room. That's all he has. And think about the man outside. He has everything. He has the whole world to interact with. He has a lot of possibilities. He has everything to see and enjoy. So definitely we would call the man who is outside as the happier person, and the man who is inside this tiny little room. Think of the story The Bet by Anton Chekhov. Think of it. See, the man who is caught inside a tiny room is an unhappy man. What I want you to do is not to focus on the room, but on that tiny window. A very small window is there on the wall of that room. Now, answer me, who is happier? When we take this window, who is happier? When the man who is inside this tiny room looks through this window, what does he see? He sees a beautiful world outside, a world of opportunities, a world of amazing possibilities, a horizon of expectations, hope, aspirations, dreams await him when he looks through that tiny window. He sees a lot of beauty when he looks through that tiny window. And what if the man who is outside looks into this room through that window? What will he see? He will see only darkness. He will see only dryness. He will see lack of life. He will see everything boring. Now tell me, from the context of this window, who is the happier man? Definitely the man who is inside. And tell me, aren't we the man who is inside? We are quarantined. We are locked. We are asked to stay indoors. We are the man inside. But shouldn't we be happy? Because we have that tiny window that opens to us a world of possibilities. I want to tell you that that is the world of imagination. That is the world of art. That window is the world of perspective. That window is your attitude. Look through that window. Not look around, but look through that window and see the immense, vast world of possibilities. Think about it. Who is happier? The one who has everything to lose, or the one who has nothing to lose? Evidently, the person who has nothing to lose would be happier, because he doesn't have to worry about anything. Have nothing to lose, and then all your worries will disappear, will vanish into thin air. This is the comic way to look at this tragic situation. And the other approach, the obvious way to look at this situation, is the tragic approach. So we want to look at this corona situation, the confinement, all this as a tragedy. But when we look at it as a tragedy as well, we don't want to get bogged down and dejected and depressed. See, when we think of a tragedy, what do? When a tragedy comes to us, initially we are despondent, initially we are depressed, but gradually we start to accept it and we start to think, why? Is there a hidden message? Is there something that nature or life wants to tell me? Is there a hidden message in this tragedy? So this is a tragedy of an immense magnitude. So definitely this tragedy has a hidden message for us all. And now we all are looking at the message. What is that message? Isn't there a message for humanity? Why is there so much suffering, we ask? We see the migrant laborers, we see the people who have lost their jobs. So many problems, people who have nothing to eat, absolutely nothing to eat. We see so much suffering, and we all have been thinking, what is the solution? Why there is so much suffering? Maybe the arts and the humanities have an answer. A message. What is the message? A message to do things better. There is no greater teacher than experience. And which is the best experience? I would say experiencing tragedy is the best of all experiences. I think it was Aldous Huxley who said, experience is not what happens to a man, but what a man does to what happens to him. It is how we look at it. It is how we manage it that something becomes an experience. So it is up to us to decide whether this is a comic experience or a tragic experience, whether this is an insightful experience or an experience which we have to escape. It's about us. It is left to us to decide. My dear friends, I was telling you about the pleasure pain principle. We all love to be happy and we hate to be in pain. There is one area where this principle doesn't work. Which is that area? There is one area where we love to be in pain. That area is known as arts. What is the idea? Don't we love tragic movies? Don't we watch tragic dramas? Don't we read tragic stories and still love them? At the end of Romeo and Juliet, they don't meet. In fact, our hero and heroine die at the end of the play Romeo and Juliet. They don't unite. Still, we derive a happiness by witnessing a play like Romeo and Juliet. And that happiness that we get is derived from witnessing a great tragedy unfold before our eyes. Right? We don't worry. Their pain is our pain, but we still enjoy tragedy. We don't say, when we go and watch a movie, even if it is a tragedy, it ends sad. Even if it is a sad movie, if it is a well-made movie, we will tell others, go and watch this movie, this is a very good movie. You won't say it is a bad movie because it ends sad. There is a meaning to tragedy as well. There is a pleasure to tragedy as well. And tragedy, so great, you know what great thinkers say? People like Aristotle would say that tragedy is superior to comedy in the arts. It depends on your individual views, but there are people who think that tragedy is a superior form of art than the comedy. And for us, what is a tragedy? Tragedy is about the fall or the decline in fortunes of a hero. It's about a hero and the decline in fortunes, the fall, the death of a hero. Decline in fortunes of a hero is a tragedy. My dear friends, tell me, isn't man a hero in the story of this earth? See the larger picture. Think about the history of this cosmos, history of this solar system or the Milky Way galaxy, whatever it is. Think about it. And isn't man a tiny hero in this earth? Definitely he is. So his fall, his sadness is a tragedy. But there is something pleasurable about that tragedy. Some message, some cathartic element is there hidden in the tragedy of man. See, my dear friends, there is very little we can control regarding what is happening around us. But there is one thing we can do. We still can and must control what is happening within us. The sense of being in control of something is amazing. And when we are in control of something, our mind is powerful. They speak about the power of positive thinking, the power of being hopeful, the power of being expectant, the recuperative power, the healing power of the human mind is unbelievable, unprecedented. So, my dear friends, what is the relevance of this arts and humanities? I would say that above everything else, arts and humanities serve as a reminder, a gentle reminder. Reminder to do what? Reminder to do what? My dear friends, when this corona visited us, when this corona reached the shores of our planet, the earth was sick, man was sick, the earth was suffering, man was suffering. A lot of problems was ailing the earth and the man. Yes, man needs medicine, man needs treatment, but man also needs care. Earth received a little bit of care. When the lockdown was declared, when people stayed indoors, earth felt cared because we stopped polluting the air with all those vehicles. We stopped throwing those plastics into our beaches and everywhere because we could not do that, because we could not get out of our homes to throw plastic. So what happened? Unconsciously, earth felt cared. And we are now witnessing how cured and fresh our earth is. We have seen those pictures, the beautiful image of the lion and the deer merrily moving across a beach. You would never see that image if man is there, because man deserted that beach. The lion and the deer could roam freely. We read about the Himalayas being visible after 120 years or so from Jalandhar. From far off Jalandhar, the Himalayas became visible because the air was cleansed. So the earth, the breathing tract of the earth is getting cured. Because earth felt cared. Earth felt cared. Similarly, man has to feel that care as well, and it is our duty to care. You know, science and medicine cannot tell a sick person, yes, my dear friend, you are sick, but it is okay. Don't worry, you are sick, you will die, but it is okay. Science will not say that. But arts and humanities can do that. Arts and humanities can at least do one thing. It can console. It can console. My dear friend, it's okay. You are ill. You are unwell. You are not feeling good. It's okay. I am with you. Consolation. A scientist looks at the RNA or the DNA, I don't know what, of the virus and its mutations, the changes that it undergoes. Arts and humanities look into the heart of the suffering person, not at the virus. Arts and humanities look into the heart of the suffering person and share his pain. Commiseration, empathy. See, empathy is the watchword for us during these days. We have to be empathetic, not just sympathetic, empathetic. What is empathy? Feeling another person's pain as our own. And let me tell you, there is no greater stimulator to empathy than the arts. Nowhere else can we be more selfless and empathetic except in the world of art. What am I saying? My dear friends, we all are selfless only when we are in the world of art. When you witness a tragic movie, when you witness a movie, not a tragic movie, any movie, when you see a movie and when your hero or heroine is suffering, we cry. Our hearts ache. Isn't it empathy? Isn't it empathy? Feeling another person's pain as our own. And sometimes if we are preparing for an exam and still we are watching a movie, we will think, oh my God, I want my hero and heroine to be united. Even if I fail in tomorrow's exam, no problem, but I want my hero and heroine to be united. I want my hero to be happy. It's okay that I will not eat my chocolate today if my hero unites with his heroine. We are very selfless, right? We are selfless. Honestly, this is an artistic principle. When we are in the world of art, we are severed. We are separated from our connection with our ego, our I-centeredness. We stop being I specialists, I, capital I. We stop being I specialists and we start to care, we start to empathize with our fellow human beings. And this happens only in the world of art. Complete selflessness for others. And this is what we want to transfer and transmute onto life, real life situations as well. Feeling another person's pain and suffering the way he feels with the same intensity. We have to be the voice of the voiceless. We have to fight for the rights of those who have nobody to speak for them. Right? Empathy. You know, it requires an artist to look at death artistically. Look at death as something beautiful. I'm reminded of a statement, I don't know who said it. The statement is like this: life is so charming and beautiful, life is so beautiful, that death has fallen in love with it. A jealous and possessive love. Death as the lover of life. So why does a person die? Because death has fallen in love with the life of that person, and that is why that person dies. And the last part of that statement says, a jealous and possessive love that wants to make life its own, his own, and that is why death takes life away. This is the artistic way even to look at life. Acceptance of pain, acceptance of illness, acceptance of suffering and death. Psychologists say that now we are at a stage of accepting the reality called COVID-19. We need the arts and humanities to tell us what the right question to ask is, what the right thing to do is. Arts and humanities help us make a critical inquiry into the lives of others. Into whose lives? Let me tell you, my dear friends, we saw the plight of the migrant laborer. Initially, nobody was taking care of them. And when I was away, I thought I was a tourist or a lecturer or a professor giving lectures, so I am a resource person. But when COVID was announced, when lockdown was declared, I stopped to be a resource person, I stopped to be an expert, I stopped to be anything but a migrant laborer. And when I wanted to return, I had to fill that form. And there, whatever I ticked, they would not allow you, except when you ticked migrant laborer. And if I returned, that was because I could tick that box, migrant laborer. So, when I became a migrant laborer, I started commiserating and empathizing with them. Until then, I couldn't feel their pain, their suffering. So what? We have to make a critical inquiry into the plight of the migrant laborers. People did that. The artists and the writers and the thinkers did that, and that is why governments started taking notice of their plight and started doing something for them. We have to take note of the plight of the marginalized communities. I saw this with my own eyes when I was in the north of the country. I don't say the whole north is marginalizing anybody, but when Arundhati Roy spoke about Islamophobia in India, I read many articles saying that she is making an issue out of nothing. I saw that with my own eyes, how our Muslim brothers and sisters were discriminated against in certain parts of the country. Yeah, I am not universalizing, it's not everywhere, but it happened. And it needed people like Arundhati Roy to bring this to the attention of people. No, we cannot marginalize a group just because one or two persons or a group from that community suffered from corona. We cannot do that. We have to think human, not religion. We have to think human. And then people began to take notice of these things, and then their situation improved. We have to take note of the plight of our teachers. What is happening? Oh, they are getting lot of salary. No, UGC is paying them very good. They are getting good salary. No, no, no. What is happening with our teachers? Yeah, some teachers may be doing good. Some teachers may be away from all this online teaching work. But most of our teachers are struggling. They are struggling to shift between the online and the offline work. Many of our teachers, I know thousands and thousands of teachers whose salaries have been cut into half, 50%. Some, I mean, even the institutions are helpless because they don't have income. They cannot pay for the faculty. So they are telling them, we will give you 30% salary only. We can only afford that. If you don't want, you can go. The teachers who are suffering, their salary is cut into half, but their workload is doubled. Now, earlier they had to do only offline teaching, classroom teaching. Now their duty time is 24 hours. They have to manage everything, and along with that they have to do online teaching, offline teaching, set question papers, look after their homes, all these things. Think of the student. What is happening with the poor student? He is confused, caught between online and offline. What is happening to me? The student is thinking, am I studying? Is it a vacation? He is totally confused, the student. He or she thinks, what is his problem? Let us think about other students who don't have access to a laptop or a 4G connection. My dear friends, it is a reality. There are people in, we may not realize that. Go to the rural areas of our country, go to the villages, go to the minority institutions where poor students study, and there you will find students who do not have access to a phone. This is a reality. And then how will teachers teach online? How will the students study? Who will commiserate with them? It's our duty to tell them that we are with you. It's our duty to be with the quarantined NRI, non-resident Indians. Oh my God, they come with corona. Don't come back. You stay there wherever you are. You are in USA. You are in wherever you are. Stay there. You went there to make money. No. So why come back when there is a problem? That is our attitude. No, my dear friends. They are struggling. They are struggling. The NRI is struggling because he is neither here nor there. Yes, the government is saying you are welcome, but they are not feeling welcome. One of my friends who returned from a distant place, he returned home, and the neighbors were all informed that this person has come and he is in home quarantine. He was not diagnosed or anything, but he had to undergo strict home quarantine. And he was telling me what happened on a day. A person from the electricity department came to take the meter reading, and he didn't know that there was a person at this home suffering, in home quarantine. And when he entered the gate, opened the gate, he came in to take the meter reading, and when he opened the gate, some neighbors shouted at him and told him that there is a quarantined patient at that room. He had a machine which he uses to record whatever. He threw away the machine and ran off. See, it is natural for us to react like this because we don't want to catch any infection. But what about our attitude? What about our attitude? We have to commiserate with the NRIs as well, the migrant laborers as well. We have to commiserate even with our poor mother. Yes, she is happy that we all are at home, but my dear friends, we people at home is a big trouble for our mothers. She has to look at it. Yeah, she doesn't feel so. She loves us, so she doesn't feel so. But she has to look after increased numbers at home. Everybody is sitting at home, so the mother has to cook for increased numbers. She has to look after not only their physical needs, not only their food needs, but also their mental needs. We have to give her a helping hand. We have to be with the poor and the weak, people who are struggling, people who don't have money. See, there are so many people who are starving in our country. We all know. I don't have to tell you. The people who have lost their jobs. Many people have lost their jobs. Acute unemployment is on the horizon. Very soon it will come. The jobless and the fired. We have to empathize with them. We have to be with them. Like Senior Hamlet's ghost in Shakespeare's Hamlet, all these poor and helpless and struggling people are begging to us, remember me. Please remember me in your prayers. At least, please remember me. See, we need the arts and humanities to tell us that this is not a month or a year lost. So many parents are worried that, oh my God, 1 month is lost. June is over. My child's 1 month education is lost. My dear friends, let us look at it differently. It is a month gained. If we are going to be in lockdown for a complete year, let it be. But this is a month gained. This is a year gained. It's an opportunity for what? To learn cooking, to learn household chores, to learn sewing, to learn the arts and crafts, to learn from life, to learn from the school of life. We all send our children, send our students to the schools and colleges, but we don't care for their education in the school of life, which is of utmost importance. So what I am saying is, it is important for us to learn from the school of life as well. And this vacation, if you call it, or this lockdown, or this closing of schools and colleges is an opportunity as well to learn from the school of life. Arts and humanities, we need it to tell us that we should have cared for the thousands and thousands of farmers who committed suicide, thousands of students who committed suicide. What are we doing? Arts and humanities remind you that you are a hypocrite. I am a hypocrite. When I worry about the suicide of a celebrity and share WhatsApp messages to all my friends saying, my dear friend, if you are in trouble, if you are sad, I am there with you. No, I was not there with him when he needed it the most. I am a hypocrite because only the death of a celebrity told me that suicide is a problem. We couldn't see the thousands and thousands of other deaths. There should be a prick of conscience. Arts and humanities is needed to remind us that we are not the first to be quarantined. My dear friends, no. Lockdown was declared only on 24th March for us in India. Before that, 8 months before that, a section of our society was quarantined, the Kashmiris. Now they are in home quarantine, in a state quarantine for the last 11 months. Think about them. Do we think about them? While I was conducting an online workshop, people were asking me, sir, why do you conduct it on YouTube? Why do you conduct it on video? Why do you conduct it on audio? I said I wanted to care for the people from Jammu and Kashmir as well, because they don't have access to 3G or 4G internet. And nobody said, oh sir, it doesn't matter. Who cares for them? But we have to care for them. Otherwise, this quarantine will not be lifted from us also, if we don't care. See, we have to think about the women who have been quarantined within the 4 walls of the house. who have been quarantined within the four walls of the kitchen for many thousands of years. We have to care for them. Otherwise, quarantine won't be lifted, at least from our hearts. We need the arts and humanities to tell us that it is not wrong to disagree and have different opinions, provided we agree on how to disagree. The only thing we have to do is we have to agree on one thing about how we can disagree peacefully. You can disagree, you can have different opinions, but disagree peacefully. And arts and humanities is whispering into your ears that before a virus, in front of a virus, in front of death, there is equality. Virus doesn't discriminate between the rich and the poor. Death doesn't discriminate between men and women, white or black, lesbian or gay or straight, cultured or otherwise, Indian or African. Death, virus, they don't distinguish between them. A democratization is happening and equality is happening. Yes. And think about the online lectures. The online lectures have brought about a democratization. See, now students in any parts of our country can access lectures given by any teacher from any part of the country thanks to the lockdown. But arts and humanities also reminds us another thing, that wireless isn't always the solution to virus. Nowadays the situation is like that we think that wireless or the internet or the online classes is the solution to virus problems. No, wireless is not the solution to the virus problem. It is a temporary help, but technology cannot replace the human. Arts and humanities want to remind us, it reminds us that man doesn't learn from his mistakes. We have seen man during the past few months, right? And if he wanted to learn from his past mistakes, he would have started learning, but he still doesn't learn. He still worries about the e-certificate, which the UGC has stated has no value. We still worry about the feedback form. We still worry about the certificate. We are accumulating truckloads of certificate. We still worry about those things. We don't really learn the lessons properly. I don't say having certificates is wrong. That is not my idea. Arts and humanities reminds us that man is a mortal. He will die. That man is a brief episode in the life of our universe, an experiment by nature that hasn't proved very good, at least for nature. A failed experiment of sorts. Man is a failed experiment because he hasn't done things extraordinarily well. Yes, he has made everything for his comfort and for his luxury, but he hasn't cared for his fellow human beings. He hasn't cared for nature. Nature is not happy with us, my dear friends. Nature is not. And this situation is reminding us that the things that we thought precious aren't precious at all. The things that we held close to our heart aren't really that precious. There are other things. This is reminding us that there are better ways to spend time than on TikTok or PUBG. That there are some people called mother and father and brother and sister at our homes. That the building we live in is not a house but a home. It also reminds us that even in your own country you are an outsider. Ask about the migrant laborers who are in other states. Ask about people who are living in other states. There you are, maybe you are an Indian. We thought that wherever in India I have freedom. But if you are living in another state, you will agree with me that no, I am a foreigner in my own country. Insights. It gives us a lot of insights. And This virus is very importantly reminding us about the human touch, the need for the touch, social isolation, social distancing. We cannot touch anyone. We are missing the touch of your mother, the hand around your shoulder called the friend, the clasping fingers called your partner or your soulmate, the consoling pat on the back, don't mind, don't care, the consoling pat on the back called your colleague. We have come to realize the value of all these once we lost access to touch, thanks to social distancing. I am reminded of two images, Keats and Fanny Brown. In a movie released in 2009, I think, the title of the movie is Bright Star. It's a poem written by Keats for Fanny Brown. The title is borrowed from that poem, Bright Star. So I just want to take your attention to just one aspect of that movie, the poster. There is a beautiful poster. You can check that later. Bright Star movie about the life of John Keats. In that movie, there is a beautiful poster in which Keats is on one side of a wall and Fanny Brown is on another side of the wall. To those who don't know these people, Keats and Fanny Brown are lovers. And Keats is suffering from tuberculosis and Fanny Brown is healthy. But so what is happening? Keats is in quarantine. He is not allowed to go out because he is ill. And Fanny Brown is in quarantine because her mother has told her not to go out and meet people. Both of them are in quarantine and they want to clasp their fingers, but there is a wall between them. And there is a beautiful scene in which both of them put their ears to the wall and listen to each other. Touch and feel, touch on the wall and feel the touch of the other person. We miss the touch. Another image that comes to my mind immediately, the image of Ferdinand and Miranda at the last act of Shakespeare's immortal play, The Tempest. Ferdinand is in a semi-quarantine situation. Prospero, by his magic, has kind of locked him. So he is quarantined. He is not allowed to do anything. He is asked to carry woods for Prospero. And Miranda, they have fallen in love. And Miranda, the sweet, beautiful daughter of Prospero, she wants to help him. She wants to help him by helping him carry the logs of wood. But her hands move towards Ferdinand, but it cannot reach Ferdinand because her father's commandment has quarantined her from reaching out to Ferdinand. What I am saying is, we miss the touch. We miss everything. No hand can substitute anybody else's hand. No other hand can substitute my mom's hand. Only my mom can touch me the way my mother can touch me. Nobody else can. And I'm just wondering how amazing it would feel when we finally get an opportunity to touch and to be touched. It would be amazing, right? And this is an opportunity. This time is an opportunity to find new interests, new skills, new tastes and talents, to discover ourselves. The days when you can't travel outside are the opportunity for you to travel into the inner recesses of your soul, to discover yourself, to know who you are, what your needs are, what your soul needs, what your heart desires. It's a time for you to journey into your heart. I would wind up this session. I'm winding up. The last message that I want to tell you is that about this quarantine and about the pandemic is, the pandemic is telling us to slow down. To slow down. Where are you rushing, dear man? Where are you rushing? Life is not a 100-meter dash. It is a marathon. Think of a person who is running a 100-meter dash. He doesn't see the audience. He doesn't hear the applause. He only has the target in his mind. That is what the personality development people would tell you. Have the target in mind and run. No. This pandemic tells us that we have to wait. We shouldn't rush. We have to move like the marathon runner who sees all the beautiful things that are around, the sights, the sounds, the people. We have to see the people. So we have to enjoy the journey, not just think about the end of the journey. End means purpose. We want to think about the purpose of our life and the goal of our life, but we don't want to think about the other meaning of end, death. See, that is not our purpose. Enjoy the journey. Life is too precious to be wasted on the luxuries and social necessities of life. So live life, be healed. By being apart, we have learned a lot about being together. By separating us, nature has taught us the value of being together, being one at heart, through the consoling power of art. That is the message that I want to give you. And to wind up, as an afterthought, I want to give you a negative thought. You know, I am a poet, so I have to end with a negative thought. I mean, see, the thought is this. You might feel it a negative thought, but I want to tell you, it's an afterthought. The thing is, aren't we really selfish if we care only for us? Yeah, we are selfish. And my question is, aren't we really selfish if we care only for the human race? If extinction of the human race is what would heal our earth and serve the aims of the nature better, then why should we fight and disagree with nature? Nature wants to extinct us. Nature wants to wipe us from the face of the earth because we are a failure. If that is the case, I don't know. If nature feels that it's time up for mankind, why should we disagree and disobey and fight with nature? Because my idea is, extinction of one species leads to the evolution of another, maybe a better species. If the dinosaurs hadn't become extinct, man wouldn't have been born. Man wouldn't have survived on this earth. So maybe if man becomes extinct, a better species would evolve on this earth. And wouldn't that be better in the larger scheme of things? Yes, we are selfish. We want to live. We want humanity to continue on this earth. But ultimately, what is selfish and what is selfless? And if that is what nature wants, I would want to say, Amen. Yes. As Mother Mary told Gabriel during the Annunciation, let thy will be done. Let thy will be done. Thank you. That concludes the lecture. Do we have any questions? Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for such a thoughtful session.
Thank you.
I invite our esteemed principal, ma'am, to share a few words on the session.
Thank you, ma'am, and welcome.
Good evening, good afternoon. So it was a wonderful lecture hearing from you. You had actually given a panoramic view of what has happened starting from March 24. We started the lockdown till now, and what is going to happen in for the following days also. It was very wonderful to hear from you. Just a very thoughtful lecture. It has to reach each and every individual, and hope everybody follows whatever you say. They have the same feelings to this one. And during your course of lecture, I had heard this word arts and humanities repeated, might be it should be 60 times or so. It is now, we have now come to know about the importance of arts and humanities in all walks of life. What I would now like you to answer is, nowadays everybody talks about this liberal arts education. Okay, so as an institution, how do you think we can bring this liberal arts education also into the varied disciplines, be it science streams or commerce stream or this one? So what sort of liberal arts education can we merge with the curriculum so that the feelings towards humanities is taken care of by each and every individual? So that is what I would like to hear from you. And I thank Dr. Shivashankari for having brought you here also to hear a wonderful lecture. I was really worried that you are going to talk more about literature because it is arts and humanities and an English department as organized. I thought you are going to talk about Shakespeare and a lot of things, right? But then it was a very, very useful and very, very thoughtful lecture at this point of time. And I'm really grateful for you to address our this one. You had taken into account each and every situation which arose after this pandemic, and really we are very grateful to you, sir, highlighting the ethos of teachers, migrant laborers. You didn't leave anybody entered, and it is the right. As you rightly pointed out, it is the cure our Mother Earth wanted, and we have sufficiently cured her. And I really hope that in days to come, she will allow us to function in a human normal way. Thank you so much, Dr. Manu.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much for your kind words. I'm really grateful to you. I'm feeling really humble to hear such kind words from a great person like you. Regarding your question, yeah, it's a very important question, especially when you look at it from an institutional perspective. It is very important what it means to be a liberal arts education institution and how liberal arts education can be practically implemented in an institution. See, what I would like to tell you is, the thing is, liberal arts education or liberal humanities, liberal arts education, the term came into currency much earlier, and there is a long history which tells us that earlier liberal arts or liberal humanities education was given more importance than STEM subjects, science, technology, engineering, mathematics subjects. But now, because of the huge demand for vocational courses, the parents and the students are concerned about life, about career, and when such things happen, what happens is, liberal arts education doesn't always say that it is a job oriented course, it is a vocational course. But what we cannot forget is what Catherine Belsey said in one of her famous essays, that liberal arts education is about man and human freedom, and we can never leave out man from any education. We cannot leave out man from any educational policy. Yes, we know we have defined education as the all-round development of an individual. But how can this person become all-round if half of it is missing? The human element is missing. So, I think it is something that we need to be aware of. Parents need to be aware of, definitely. All the stakeholders need to be aware of the importance of these. And I think these days people are getting to know the importance of these things far better than at an earlier date, because yes, earlier we were interested in career oriented courses, job oriented courses, and liberal arts education was being squeezed on one side from language education. You have to teach language because it is the necessity of the market. You have to teach English. So language education was squeezing it from one end, and the STEM subjects were squeezing it from the other end. But now we understand today that we need both the arts and the sciences to survive. It is not just the sciences that we need to live in this world. That is why when you look at the history of the webinars that are happening, in the beginning it was all about subject specific webinars. Now the webinars have turned to mental pressure and how to cope with the mental issues faced by a person during the corona lockdown situation. So this is a wonderful instance where the shift is really happening in the way we are looking at what we are thinking. So I think awareness is what we need. That I don't have any practical suggestion as to how we can actually implement. That is up to people like you who know a great deal about these things. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wonderful
Thank you.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. I request Dasmal ma'am to read the questions.
Good afternoon, sir. Shall I continue with the questions?
Sure, ma'am. So it's good afternoon. Thanks for reminding me that the lecture has gone into the forenoon session. Afternoon session, rather. Yeah.
There's a question from Jyoti Patel. Has this pandemic jigsaw given a common ground for the intersection of language and literature? Could you please empirically validate this entailment?
Empirically validate. You are asking a poet to think about something empirically. My dear friend, don't do that. You are asking me to do something that I don't know. I'm not science person. I'm not a science person. But yeah, I understand the essence of your question. The idea is, does this? I think it is. It parts of. It kind of continues what our principal man has just asked. How can you bring these two things together? You are asking about how to bring together language and literature education, especially in this corona context. Has this helped in any way to bring these two together? I don't know how to explain that empirically because I am not a scientist, but what I know is I think it has brought language learning is, we speak about linguistics. Linguistics is the scientific study of language, and then we have literature, which is an artistic way of looking at life. So maybe this occasion called the pandemic situation has reminded us the importance to amalgamate, bring together, club together these two things. And it is not like we are bringing two disparate entities together. Actually, it is a harmonious coexistence that we require, not just among human beings. See, we are saying that we have to stay united to fight. We say that we always assert the importance of human beings to stay united. I think the disciplines will have to stay united as well to fight and ward off these problems that we are suffering. So we have to come to a realization where arts and humanities, sciences, social sciences all work together. We want an interdisciplinary situation. That is exactly what I would want to say. In 2006, there was a famous experiment conducted by a group of neuroscientists, neurosurgeons. What they did was they invited the Ferrari mechanics, the Formula 1 Ferrari group, and they have a set of mechanics there who will during the pit stop they will quickly change the tires and do the fueling, do the corrections, everything. So they invited these Ferrari mechanics into their surgery hall. The doctors welcomed, the neurosurgeons welcomed the Ferrari team, and they wanted to know from the Ferrari team how the brain surgeons, neurosurgeons could speed up their process and enhance their productivity while they are doing a surgery. And after a week-long interaction, both the parties, the Ferrari team said, we benefited immensely from this interaction because we learned so many things about so many things that we have never thought of from that particular angle. So the brain, neurosurgeons helped us understand our field better. And the neurosurgeons, just think, we never think that a field like neurosurgery and sports, Formula 1 sports can come together, but it actually came together. And the neurosurgeons were saying that we learned a lot about how to properly manage everything during the surgery. And in fact, neurosurgeons developed certain devices with the help of these Ferrari engineers, which helped faster mobility regarding, I don't know those technical terms, but you can find about these things. It happened in 2006. So if that could happen, definitely we should look at an interdisciplinary situation where different disciplines work together with the sole aim of the benefit of the human race. Thank you.
The next question, sir. Do you think the feelings of empathy and sympathy, which are called to be qualities of humankind, are today trapped within the demands of popular culture?
Exactly. You phrased that question beautifully. Empathy and sympathy are trapped in the reins, in the tentacles of popular culture. Very true. We forget to be human beings because we are enmeshed in our luxuries, our selfish interests, the popular culture. Yeah, you pointed it correctly. It is the popular culture. The problem is with the culture. It is rooted in the culture, and what the famous economist called the prionization of culture. See, the prions, the infecting proteins, have infected our culture by what is this infection? The scientists used to speak about the mad cow disease. Certain proteins that are there in the body of the cows which make them infected and which kills them, the mad cow disease. Similarly, our culture has self-infected. Because of what? Because of this selfishness, because of this lack of empathy, it is self-infected, and because of this cancer called selfishness, all our sympathy and empathy have vanished, and we all are rushing after material gains. What you said is absolutely correct. And so what happens is, we stop caring for the group, we stop caring for others' pains. We lack moral imagination. We lack the ability to understand the pains of another person as our own. As Joseph Stalin, I am quoting a person, different person, but Joseph Stalin, it was, who said that one death is a tragedy, a million deaths is a statistic. We look at deaths now as statistics. Today we look at newspaper only to see the scoreboard, how many people have died the world over. The infiltration of culture into our lives, the popular culture, the mass culture of hip hop, pop, rock culture has destroyed a lot of values. Spot on. Thank you for the question.
Yeah, Dasmal, any more questions?
The next question is, how can literature or arts help with psych of those who suffer during pandemic, both physically and financially?
Well, how can literature help people? Literature, right? Literature help the psyche of people who are suffering physically and financially. I have explained how we can help the people who are suffering physically. We can't really help them by giving them treatment or by giving them medicines or by suggesting a cure, but there are different other C's, words beginning with C, that we can give. We can give care, we can give our concern, we can show that we care for them, we can commiserate with them, we can empathize with them. These are some of the ways that arts and humanities, and there is something called the anodyne power of literature, the anodyne principle of poetry. What is it? I don't know whether you are familiar with this word. Anodyne means ANODYNE, pain relieving. So poetry has this power to relieve pain. You may have seen this in movies. People who have gone paralyzed, people who are sick, getting better or recovering when they listen to music. So poetry, literature, arts has this anodyne power as well, the healing power. Maybe a lot of music and arts can have an healing influence on the people. That is one way to look at it. And how can we help people financially? Well, helping people financially can be both a productive activity and passive activity and an active activity, in the sense if we give them a class for free, that is also a financial help. If we see, we cannot always help everyone. We are not so rich or powerful, we are not so affluent, we may not have the money, but we can share our time, we can share our effort, we can share our knowledge, and that is how we can help those people financially. Yes, because otherwise they will have to spend money for attending a lecture. So the way we can help them financially is mostly by doing these things, but also arts. We can have solo arts performances, raise funds, and do that. But that requires a lot of combined effort. I don't know how it will work out, but if people are together, not physically, but if mentally, at heart, people are together, anything is possible. So we can help them financially as well in that sense. Yeah.
I would just like to add something here about Professor Manu. Dear students, it is not that he is just talking about all this. He is a person who is giving free UGC classes to more than thousands of students. I was one of his students who took the UGC free class from him. Okay, and also he has adopted children all around India. He is single. He wants to be single. He doesn't want to get married. He has adopted children all over India, and he's helping them in their livelihood. So I think Professor Manu is not just talking, he's a living example of giving financial, emotional, and all kinds of support to the people who really need it, not only in times of pandemic, but in general. So I think he's a wonderful human being, and we should really appreciate him for this kind of help that he's doing towards society. As a teacher with a very meager income, he is so dedicated in all this. And after I joined the UGC classes with him, I have seen almost 60 to 70 batches being completed, and absolutely free of cost. And his material was really, really wonderful and useful. And he put so much of efforts into the class, like as if it is a paid class. So for him, teaching is a passion, and it's a vocation and not a profession. And so we are very, very happy to have someone who's a living example of what he's talking here. So thanks, Professor Manu, for being here with us. Now we'll continue this session. Yeah, definitely.
The next question is, can arts and humanities be an answer to mitigate the dilemmas faced in the economic crisis born out of pandemic?
Well, I think I have answered that question in part from the previous question, how we can use the arts and humanities to mitigate the financial problems that people are facing. The reality is the number of people who are facing financial problems is increasing every single day. People who had jobs yesterday don't have jobs today. People are fired, not fired, but just told no need to come tomorrow. And people, the salaries have been cut down. So in many ways, financially, the whole world is struggling. So how the arts and humanities can help? Again, we can help by being of help to them. Instead of providing them money, we can organize things. See, I have seen there are so many people who don't know how they have money. I mean, not that they have lot of money, but they have a big heart to share their money with others, but they don't know how to reach the people who are, people who live in cities. They don't usually have an opportunity to see. I'm not making up this situation, it is real. There are people who really want to help. From their meager incomes, they are ready to help others, but they don't find a platform. We may not always be confident about paying money to the Prime Minister Cares Fund or the Chief Minister's Fund, because we don't really feel like it is happening. Yeah, maybe they are doing a lot of good things, but because we are not very sure or we are confused, we may not really do that. Instead, if we can actually see whom we are helping, it's not about a self satisfaction, but it's about knowing that my money is not going into wrong hands. So maybe there are people, so if somebody can bring them together, if you have a platform, for example, recently I am part of a WhatsApp group, and there was a situation where a person presented his financial problem, and we thought about having a fund so that we can help him. And do you know what happened when we spoke about this having a fund? So many people raised their hands that we made surplus fund. Believe me, so many people raised their hands, and the admin of that group said, okay, it's enough, we have sufficient funds. But so many more people wanted to contribute, and so many people requested the admin to give them a chance to contribute. Imagine. So people want to help others, people have that within them, commiseration, empathy is within them. So we have to give them a platform. It's not just about arts and humanities. Any human being can take up the responsibility and take the initiative to spread this knowledge, to take money to where it is required, to take food. There are many people, students, I see lot of students who ask their mothers for two tiffin boxes. One they will take for themselves, and the other they will give to a fellow human being. You are financially helping others, right? So this is how we can do that, by helping others, not just by giving money, but by helping them using our time, effort, our learning, our knowledge, by sharing what we have. That is another way we can help. Thank you.
We have a last question, sir. The question is, comment upon the contention that the real purpose of arts and humanities does not serve all amid every section of society. Only things hold during pandemic is arts or art's sake. Neither art or humanities can feed a hungry man, and mere empathy does not help the poor, the needs of happy.
And does the question require a comment or a reply? What is it? Comment on the situation, right? Yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah, see, when you look at things from a very practical point of view, no, arts and humanities can't cure illnesses. It's true. That is the reality. Whatever we say, we can speak about lot of things, but we can't really cure a person. We require medicine, we require treatment, and that is why we require everybody to work together. Arts and humanities can help to a certain extent, but definitely we need the sciences. We need the medical practitioners, we need the scientists. They are the saviors for us these days. I don't say arts and humanities is a savior, but in its own small ways, arts and humanities can do its bit to mitigate the pain, to mitigate the suffering, to make the patient feel better, mentally at least. These are some of the things that we can do. Obviously, arts and humanities doesn't have a panacea for all problems, a tablet that will cure all problems. But yeah, if it comes down to perspective, then arts and humanities can offer you good perspectives to look at things, and ultimately the perspective really matters. If you have a positive outlook, if you have a positive perspective towards things, that really helps in even curing illness. So definitely it has a role to play, but it can play a role in conjunction with the other spheres as well. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dasmal ma'am. I invite Arundhati ma'am, Associate Professor, Department of English, Self-Support, to render the vote of thanks.
Yes, thank you, Divya.
Good day, one and all present here. I deem it a great honor to propose vote of thanks.
First and foremost, I thank God Almighty for making today's event a resounding success. On behalf of Department of English, I thank our management, Madam Principal, and our Vice Principal for constantly encouraging us in all our new endeavors. A special thanks to Dr. Beena Anil, Vice Principal, Aided Stream, for her friendly guidance in initiating this webinar. I sincerely thank our Chief Guest, Professor Manu Mangattu, who spared his time from his busy schedule to grace this occasion. We were spellbound in your speech, sir, and I am sure that your thoughts and ideas have ignited the young minds and have a new path during this tough situation of pandemic. We understood the hidden message of this tragedy. There is no great teacher than experience, and also the pleasure pain situation from the perception of arts and humanities. Thank you, sir. I thank Chitra ma'am of ESRM Digital Support, without whose help this webinar would not have been possible. I extend my